I am Dr. Manjunath N K. I am the Pro Vice-Chancellor as well as the Director of Research at S-VYASA, which is Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Samsthana, a deemed to be university here in Bengaluru. We have been seeing the increasing prevalence and incidence of so many lifestyle disorders today. Once upon a time, we used to think that the major chronic diseases are seen only at the last part of our life. But it has become most common irrespective of our age and any other limitations. So we always think that we need to really bring in the best treatments available and best treatments made available to patients. One of the futuristic way of thinking is that if the treatments are really working well, why the number of cases and number of problems increasing? So probably there is a limitation in the delivery, healthcare delivery system itself. So there's the new word called integrative medicine, which has been becoming very popular. The whole concept behind it is to bring in the best of multiple medical systems together to give the wonderful clinical outcome to any patient who visits a doctor. It's always challenging to say that bring multiple systems together. How do you bring them together? Because for some of them you have evidence, for many of them you don't have the evidence. And also for bringing them together you don't have evidence. So when you don't have evidence, how do you really bring in this integrative medicine? The whole journey is actually to create that evidence and then to give patients that wonderful clinical outcome, and future will be in integrative medicine. So here it's not blindly combine the treatment methodology of multiple systems as the focus. Rather than that, how do we complement each other? How do you actually identify which treatment methodology should be the frontline treatment methodology and which ones you should use as complementary systems? And when do you start one and when do you end the other one is the methodology which is being worked out, and I am very sure that the future is in using the strengths of multiple systems complementing each other. One way we understood this process of integration is through one of our collaborations what we have with MD Anderson Cancer Center in Houston in America. There was a project which was proposed by MD Anderson Cancer Center where they wanted to integrate yoga therapy along with the conventional cancer therapies, whatever has been offered at MD Anderson Center. So as we all know, wherever it is required, surgical intervention is done, followed by or before and after by chemotherapy and radiation. So one condition which was picked up was breast cancer patients, and what they suggested was, can we use yoga as a complementary therapy or an adjuvant therapy along with conventional medicine during cancer treatment when patients come to MD Anderson Cancer Center. You don't believe this is one of the biggest funded projects in America. $4.5 million have been given for researching the efficacy of using yoga as a complementary therapy in breast cancer patients management. What we tried doing in these patients is, before they go to surgery, they will have a lot of anxiety. So one component we wanted to attend through yoga therapy was, can we really work at their psychological health to begin with? And number two, also when they are going through multiple therapies, conventional medical therapies, be it chemo or radiation, there are lots of side effects associated with them. A question was asked, can practicing yoga reduce the side effects of chemo and radiation or any other intervention what they are following? And the third thing was, one worst affected thing in cancer patients is quality of life. Can yoga improve their quality of life? So the integration was meant for these three different aspects. So number one, psychological health. Number two, for their reduction of complications or reduction of the issues related to treatment. Number three is for basically quality of life. Swami Vivekananda Yoga Anusandhan Samsthana, the name itself says it's research foundation. So this university has got research as its background. This place where we are sitting here is called Anveshana. The word says Anveshana means to search or to research. So here we have 5 main laboratories. The whole idea is to have an integrative research facility whereby we can understand a human being in its complete sense, not just understanding the brain in one part and other systems separately. So, the whole purpose of understanding the scientific basis of yoga is the key essence of this organization. We know yoga is 5,000 plus year old tradition. How do you make it as a socially relevant science? So, we have these laboratories. One laboratory which has got a tradition from where yoga research has come is called Psychophysiology Laboratory. Here we try to understand how the practice of different yoga techniques influence your physiological functions. So, Psychophysiology Laboratory not only looks at just physiological functions, we have an exercise physiology laboratory, metabolic laboratory. We also attach our sleep laboratory along with that, because sleep is a fascinating area, not for talking only about the sleep disorders, but also how do we understand my sleep architecture. Can yoga improve or give me better quality sleep rather than quantity of sleep? Another lab is cognitive neuroscience lab. We all have very special interest in understanding when I do meditation, when I do pranayama, what happens to my brain. Two things out of several publications what we have noticed is the information processing in the brain becomes very fast. A third lab is molecular biology lab. So, molecular biology is not just looking at few specific molecules, but we have gone from grossest to subtlest. Grossest looking at biochemistry, subtlest looking at a smallest protein in the body. So, we have instruments to measure that. We have so many publications talking about how yoga can reduce your bring in changes in your biochemistry, be it in your cholesterol, triglycerides, whatever it is, in obesity to other conditions, and also like blood sugar levels, etc., in diabetes, etc. On the other side, how yoga can actually bring in changes in those subtle components, be it enzymes, hormones, or even your genetic material, be it the mechanisms associated with your DNA repair and DNA damage. So, some of the studies what we have done were very interesting. One study once again we have done in collaboration with the University of California, which suggested that the DNA repair mechanisms can be improvised by the practice of yoga. And one interesting study I want to mention is what we did in Antarctica. So, everybody would like to visit a place like Antarctica, but when you visit there are lots of challenges. One major challenge is social isolation, number 2 is climatic conditions. But Indian government, we have 3 laboratories over there for doing a lot of research in Antarctica. Every year 2 expeditions go to Antarctica, and in 1 year one of our researchers was sent to introduce yoga to Antarctica expedition, scientists going to Antarctica. And it was so fascinating to learn that in spite of all the challenging circumstances, when people practiced yoga for the first time on the glaciers of Antarctica, there was something very interesting result with respect to their genetic expression.